What's going on, everybody? It's GameUnboxingReviews here, and welcome back to another episode of Community Characters, a show in which every month I pick 10 of the best custom characters created with the LEGO Marvel Super Heroes 2 character creator by the community based on a specific set theme. And thanks to all of your votes, the next chosen theme was, of course, Marvel 2099. So you could either create a new and original 2099 themed character, or a 2099 version of a pre-existing Marvel character. Now, before we get started, I'd just like to apologize for the delay on this video, as it was meant to be released yesterday, but I just wasn't feeling so great, so unfortunately I had to delay it. But it's here now, and hopefully you guys will enjoy this, because this is going to be a great episode. And also, of course, I have to say Happy New Year, everyone, because we are now, of course, in 2018. I'm wishing you all the very best of luck this year. It looks to be a very exciting one, and I can't wait for it to get started. 2017 for me was an amazing year for both myself and the channel, and I look forward to bringing you all lots more exciting content this year. Anyway, guys, without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so first off, kicking off our list at number 10, we have Spider-Woman 2099, created by Arkham Vader on Twitter. Now, in terms of this character's powers and abilities, Spider-Woman 2099 can use her grapple to reach high places, interact with technology panels, destroy cracked Lego walls, and use her super strength to grab onto strength handles and lift up heavy objects. And when it comes to traversal, she can get around a wavy York by climbing onto almost any surface, hyper jumping into the air, and of course web swinging at very fast speeds. And she is great in combat. She can attack with her fists, but also shoot bolts and beams that electrocute anyone that they hit. And when things get too crazy, she can also unleash a devastating explosive attack, which can also electrocute all enemies in the vicinity. Overall, I really do love the design of this character. It's definitely reminiscent of previous Spider-Woman costumes, but with a few little changes here and there that definitely fit the Marvel 2099 theme. Next up at number 9, we have Hawkeye 2099, created by Coops2407 on YouTube. Now, in terms of his powers and abilities, this version of Hawkeye can grapple to reach high places, cut through tough Lego vines, dig for items, and also track down hidden items. And when it comes to traversal, Hawkeye can climb almost any surface in the Chronopolis HUB World, and even swing at very fast speeds with the use of his rope. And he's also great in combat. Hawkeye 2099 can attack enemies with his bow, shoot bolts that can destroy silver Lego objects, and he can also use his left hand to shoot an electricity beam that deals out heat damage. Overall, I absolutely love this character's costume design, and it's pretty cool to see another Hawkeye besides Max in the Marvel 2099 universe. At number 8, we have Neo, created by Quinzalis on YouTube. Now, Quinzalis has wrote a backstory for their character, which I will now explain. So, Lexus Johnson is one of Nueva York's best hackers and mechanics. However, growing up as an orphan didn't exactly make her a hero or even a criminal. For years, she used her hacking skills to steal money from banks, but she never kept the money for herself. Instead, she would always give the money back to the poor people in the city, but despite her kind gestures, Lexus always tended to get into a lot of trouble with Spider-Man 2099. Now, because of this, Lexus decided to learn how to fight, and she soon mastered martial arts, but that wasn't enough. Until one day, as she was robbing a bank vault, she found something called the Sun Core. Lexus studied the core and eventually created a protective neuro-enhancing outfit, or Neo for short. Now, when wearing this, Lexus had enhanced strength, speed, agility, and also a few gadgets at her disposal. She powered her suit with the Sun Core, and now, stronger than ever, is causing trouble for Spider-Man 2099 and continuing to help the poor. Now, in terms of her powers and abilities, Lexus is a very powerful character. She can grapple to reach high places, interact with technology panels, destroy cracked Lego walls, deflect incoming attacks, fix broken Lego objects, cut Lego vines, use her super strength to grab onto strength handles and lift up heavy objects, dig for items, and also track down hidden items. And when it comes to traversal, Lexus can get around Nueva York by running super fast through the city. She can climb onto almost any surface, hyper jump into the air, and even web swing. And in combat, she can attack with her armored claws by going close up to an enemy, or by quickly lunging towards them from a safe distance. And when things get too out of hand, Lexus can either defend herself with a force field, or unleash a sonar explosion that can electrocute all enemies that are in the vicinity. Overall, I think that this is a great character. I particularly love the use of the mix of colors on her costume, and the backstory is just so awesome. It definitely makes her out to be a sort of futuristic Robin Hood, which is honestly a very cool concept. At number 7, we have Ant Girl, created by Sarmad Al-Zajali on Twitter. Now, Sarmad has created a backstory for their character, which I will now explain. So, in 2099, there was an Alchemax employer named Whisper Jonathan Hank Pym. Whisper was a very smart young woman with expertise in science and engineering, but still tended to live a pretty normal life. That was, of course, until she discovered the secret to the Pym family heirloom. Whisper found some files as well as 2 suits, both of which belonged to the original Ant-Man and the Wasp. After reading through all of the files, she soon discovered that they contained her grandfather, Hank Pym's secret Pym particle formula. Now, in an attempt to resurrect the persona of the astonishing hero, Whisper combined both suits and soon took on the name of Ant Girl, but was also known to many others as the New Ant. Whisper soon went on to fight crime in Nueva York and later joined forces with the heroes Magwell and Pyro Knight to take down Venom 2099. Now, as for her powers and abilities, Ant Girl can interact with technology panels, fix broken Lego objects, and thanks to her newly upgraded suit, she also has super strength. And when it comes to traversal, she can get around Nueva York by climbing up almost any surface or by just simply flying through the city. And when in combat, she can attack with her fists, lunge towards her enemies, unleash a powerful sonar explosion attack, and of course, shrink to a very small size. Overall, I think this character is really cool. I love how Sarmad made a civilian and costume version of their custom character, and I especially love the backstory because taking 2 iconic characters like Ant-Man and the Wasp and combining them to create a completely new hero is a really cool idea. Moving on, at number 6 we have Kendrick, created by Lorna Dane on YouTube. Now, Lorna has also written a backstory for their character, which I will now explain. So, in the year 2099, there was a SHIELD agent known as Kendra Kimberlin. Kendra was a very intelligent agent in the field and one that was always capable of getting the job done. However, all of this changed when Kendra was kidnapped by Goblin 2099 and used as his next subject for combining DNA. In Kendra's case, the Goblin used the DNA of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and with all this new power at her disposal, Kendra defeated the Goblin and finally escaped his clutches. From that day on, she became known as the Red Trail and would soon team up with the likes of Miguel O'Hara and Roberta Mendez. Now, in terms of her powers and abilities, Kendra can interact with technology panels, mind control, interact with magic-based Lego pieces, destroy cracked Lego walls, deflect incoming attacks, and use her super strength to grab onto strength handles and lift up heavy objects. She can also manipulate time, trace runes, create portals, teleport, track down hidden items, and of course, double jump. And when it comes to traversal, Kendra can get around Nueva York by running super fast through the city streets. She can climb onto almost any surface and even hyper jump very high into the air. However, her powers are still evolving, so it's possible that someday she may eventually be able to fly. And when it comes to combat, Kendra can easily handle herself in the fight thanks to the DNA of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. She can attack her enemies very quickly, either by punching or lunging towards them, or she can defend herself with a force field or even shoot a powerful beam that does heat damage. Overall, I really like what Lorna did with this character. The backstory is really cool, and I especially love how she created 2 different versions of her character, both before and after receiving her powers. And I also think it was really cool how 2 sets of buttons feature the twins' powers. On the left-hand side, you've got, of course, Quicksilver's abilities, and on the right, you have Scarlet Witch. Very, very cool. Next up at number 5, we have Steve Rogers 2099, created by Real N178 on Twitter. Now, the Real N178 has also created a backstory for their character, which I will now explain. So, in an alternate universe in the year 2070, the body of Steve Rogers was found, defrosted, and miraculously, he was somehow still very much alive. But after finding out about the death of his beloved Peggy, he became angry and fueled with rage. Not knowing what to do in this newly advanced technological world, Steve decided to learn about all of the historic moments that he never got to experience. He read stories about spectacular heroes like the Amazing Spider-Man and Avengers like the invincible Iron Man, but there was one man in history that stood out to him the most, and that was Frank Castle, better known as the Punisher. As Steve tried to make a normal life for himself, he eventually saw all of the corruption that was happening around him and decided to act. With no shield or faith in his country, Steve could not become the hero that he once was, and instead decided that it was time to take matters into his own hands. Steve Rogers then became the judge, jury, and executioner. Now in terms of powers and abilities, Steve Rogers 2099 can use his grapple to reach high places, interact with technology panels, and he can also double jump, and he is great in combat. He wields 2 dual machine guns which he can attack with, throw at enemies, and of course he can use them to shoot bolts that deal out heat damage. Overall, I absolutely love this character. Taking someone as heroic as Captain America and finding a way of twisting their origin to make them into more of an anti-hero is honestly very impressive storytelling. I also love it when you can just look at a character design and see a story, and with this character that is no exception. I mean, just by looking at Steve, you can clearly see that this is not your star-spangled man with a plan. Next up at number 4 we have Jason Steele, created by the Streak Razor on Twitter. Now the Streak Razor has written a backstory for their character, which I will now explain. So Jason Mendez is the unknown brother of Roberta Mendez, better known as Captain America, in the year 2099. Now one day in his childhood, Jason was happily playing with his sister in the snow, until suddenly Roberta's boyfriend's father kidnapped Jason and did experiments on him. Jason was later injected with a beta super soldier serum, which increased his strength, stamina, regeneration, speed, and durability. However, some of Jason's limbs started swelling up, so they were forced to be removed and replaced with robotic parts, including a robotic cybernetic arm which could shoot firebolts. However, luckily, before Jason was brainwashed, he escaped and now lives trying to learn how to use his new body. Now in terms of Jason's powers and abilities, he can grapple to reach high places, interact with technology panels, destroy cracked Lego walls, deflect incoming attacks, fix broken Lego objects, cut through tough Lego vines, and double jump. And when it comes to traversal, he can only wall climb. However, in combat, he is very useful. He can attack with his Gladius sword, which he can also throw, and he can also shoot bolt attacks that deal out heat damage. Overall, I really like this character. I think it's really cool how the Streak Razor took most of Crimson Dynamo's pieces but still made it fit that Winter Soldier theme. And I also particularly love how the Streak Razor took an already well-established character like Roberta Mendez and gave her what is essentially the 2099 version of the Winter Soldier, but as an actual brother. That is a really cool idea. At number 3 we have the Scarlet Virus, created by Artworks MRC on Twitter. Now Artworks MRC has written a backstory for their character, which I will now explain. So Danson Trenti was once an underground street punk with a love of mayhem and petty crime, known also as a nuisance to Spider-Man 2099. However, that all changed on one fateful day at Oscorp. On that day, Danson broke into a restricted biochemical lab where anti-venom was being tested on by Goblin 2099. Danson foolishly released anti-venom, and as the white symbiote began to give chase to the defenseless street thug, he soon regretted his decision. Eventually, a part of the symbiote caught onto him, and as he ran in distress, Danson then fell into a vat of chemical testing technovirus. Danson somehow survived this and rose from the vat as a red symbiote. His symbiote could do everything most could, but he also had the ability to spit a chemical virus that could poison his enemies and take control of their minds through cerebral pathways. Danson is now known as the Scarlet Virus and continues to have a deep rivalry with Anti-Venom. In the newfound world of Chronopolis, he plans to destroy the spider and plague everything that Kang the Conqueror has worked to build. Now in terms of his powers and abilities, the Scarlet Virus can grapple to reach high places, mind control, destroy cracked Lego walls, cut vines, use super strength to grab onto strength handles and lift up heavy objects, dig for items, and track down hidden items. And when it comes to traversal, he can climb up almost any surface in Nueva York, hyper jump very high into the air, and also web swing. And when in combat, he can attack with his dual symbiote battle axes, target enemies and lunge at them, emit an explosion attack that can destroy silver Lego objects, and even shrink to a very small size. Overall, I think Artworks MRC did a great job on this character. A street punk definitely fits the 2099 theme, and it's always fun seeing bad people like Eddie Brock and Cletus Cassidy become symbiotes in the Marvel Universe, and Danson Trenti as the Scarlet Virus is definitely a very worthy addition to the symbiote lineup. I also think that the mohawk and spiky shoulder pads are a really nice addition to the overall design, as they help retain Danson's street punk style and attitude. Next up at a very close second, we have Galatia, created by Marvel Unifan on Twitter. Now, Marvel Unifan has created a backstory for their character, which I will now explain. So, Cole Stevenson was once a renowned Oscorp scientist, on par with the likes of Tony Stark. However, one day, the Green Goblin and a few other villains attacked Atalan and stole their Terrigenesis machine, as well as its crystals. Goblin then went back into hiding in a secret Oscorp facility located somewhere in the South Pole, and Cole was then ordered to make it so the machine would allow humans to go through Terrigenesis. But when he overheard Norman and MODOK talking about how they will use the machine, Cole secretly contacted Black Bolt and the other Inhumans and informed them of where their machine was and what Norman intended to do with it. Goblin then heard about this, and instead of just killing Cole, he decided to put him in the Terrigenesis machine and throw him into the ocean. While sinking to the ocean floor, the Terrigenesis began to change Cole's genetic material. 86 years later, the body of Cole Stevenson was found and taken back to be defrosted in Avengers Mansion. However, despite still being alive, Cole suffered from severe frostbite, which caused him to lose both of his legs, his whole right arm, and part of his left arm. His limbs were then replaced with advanced cybernetic ones that gave him super strength and allowed him to run at fast speeds and even jump extremely high into the air. After being defrosted, Cole felt very different and soon discovered the side effects to Terrigenesis. He now had the ability to control water, freeze it, and also heat it up to boiling temperatures. Cole now fights alongside Spider-Man 2099 and Captain America 2099 as Galatia, but is also trying to come to terms with living in this newly advanced world as he attempts to take revenge on the Osborn family. Now, in terms of his powers and abilities, Galatia can double jump, grapple to reach high places, interact with technology panels, destroy cracked Lego walls, fix broken Lego objects, and use super strength to grab onto strength handles and lift up heavy objects. As for traversal, he can run super fast through the city streets, climb onto almost any surface, and hyper jump in the air. And in combat, he is a very useful character. He can attack with his fists, lunge attack enemies, shoot a blue beam that deals out heat damage, and even shout at his enemies, which will cause them to freeze. Overall, I absolutely love Marvel Unifan's latest creation. You really are rooting for this character in the story, and you hope that he tears down everything that the Osborn family own. It's a very tragic story that also felt like a gritty combination between Captain America and RoboCop, but it also fits really well with the actual character design and 2099 theme. However, I also thought it was really cool how he tied the Inhumans to Galatia's origin. That was really great thinking. And last but most certainly not least, our number one Marvel 2099 custom character is Shocker 2099, created by Always Dreagle on Twitter. Now, Always Dreagle has created a backstory for their character, which I will now explain. So, Mayumi Hanzo was once an employee of the mega corporation Stark Fujikawa. Mayumi was a brilliant woman with a gift for building advanced technologies and weapons. However, after inventing a pair of gauntlet cannons that could destabilize the molecular structure of any objects through the use of vibrations and shockwaves, Mayumi decided to keep that weapon for herself rather than allowing the Stark Fujikawa to reproduce and sell it. Mayumi then moved from Japan to Nueva York, where she started a successful criminal career. She wore a special costume and armed with the stolen gauntlet cannons, took on the name of the Shocker. Hanzo soon found herself going up against several heroes, including the Daredevil and Spider-Man of the year 2099. Now, in terms of her powers and abilities, Mayumi can interact with technology panels and fix broken Lego objects. As for traversal, she can hyper jump into the air, and in combat, she can use her dual fusion pistols to shoot sonar blasts, but she can also unleash a devastating sonar explosion attack that can shatter any glass Lego objects. Overall, I absolutely love this creation. The Shocker is one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man villains, and I usually don't like alternate takes on this character. Like, for instance, I'm honestly not a huge fan of the ultimate version of Shocker. However, Always Dreagle's creation is a huge exception. It fits the Marvel 2099 theme extremely well, and I always love characters like Mayumi who just take something and run. Someone who will always be looking behind their back and never truly knowing if there's someone there or not. Mayumi is honestly one of those characters that you just want to know more and more about because they're just so fascinating. And she may not be the most useful character, but she makes up for it with her incredibly cool costume that somehow manages to keep that iconic Shocker look with the yellow colors while also still looking very new, different, and futuristic. All that's left to say for this creation is, of course, congratulations to Always Dreagle on Twitter for being the #1 Marvel 2099 custom character. Very well deserved. And that's it, guys. That was my top 10 favorite Marvel 2099 themed custom characters created by the community using the LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2 character creator. But you're probably wondering, what's next? Well, in celebration of the highly anticipated upcoming release of Black Panther, I figured it would be fitting for the next theme to revolve around Wakanda. Now, there was a lot of confusion revolving around the Marvel 2099 theme, so here's a quick rundown of how this whole thing works. So, if you want to enter within a chance for your name and creation to be showcased in the next episode of Community Characters, all you have to do is use LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2's in-game character creator and create either a new and original Wakandan themed character or a Wakandan themed version of a pre-existing Marvel character. Now, new and original is your very own custom creation, something that you came up with entirely by yourself and one that does not exist in any iteration of the Marvel Universe. But a Wakandan version of a pre-existing Marvel character basically involves you taking a pre-existing Marvel character, like for example Iron Man or Spider-Man, and giving them a Wakandan-inspired redesign and backstory. But a backstory is completely optional. You do not have to do that if you don't want to. The only major thing that I'd say don't qualify are recreations. So if you were to make, say for example, White Wolf from the comics, then that would not count, as while he is a pre-existing Marvel character, he does of course have close ties to Wakanda. So it really wouldn't involve a lot of creativity and just not seem fair in my opinion. Now, you can share your creations with me via two ways. You can use YouTube and record a gameplay video of your custom character, but you will need to showcase their look, powers, and abilities, so that if you're chosen, I can perfectly recreate your custom character in-game to showcase in the next video alongside other community-made creations. Once you've made the video, you just need to upload it to YouTube, but please make sure that the title of the video looks like this. So it's LMSH2: community characters entry, name of your character. The name of your character, obviously that will be replaced with the name of your custom character. Now, you can also share your creations via Twitter. So, like YouTube, you can just make a gameplay video, but if you can't do that, you can also just take a screenshot of your custom character in-game. Just remember to also include detail in another tweet about your custom character's look, powers, and abilities, and even little details like what color their powers are, so that if your creation is chosen, I can perfectly recreate them in-game to showcase in the next video. Whichever way you decide to share your creation on Twitter, just make sure to use the hashtag #CommunityCharacters. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for this video. Now, before I go, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to every single one of you that participated in this episode of Community Characters. I'm thoroughly enjoying working on this series, and it means the world to me to see so many of you wanting to join in on all the fun. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing what you all come up with next month. Anyway guys, all that's left to say is that entries must be in before the 1st of February, as that is when the top 10 custom Wakandan characters will finally be revealed. Anyway guys, I want to thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for lots more videos real soon, and as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.